I'm Tim Jasinski. I work for the Lake Erie Nature and Science Center in Bay Village, and I'm a wildlife rehabilitation specialist. I love birds and I love everything about nature, but mainly birds because those are the coolest. And waterfowl and gulls and shorebirds, and those are the coolest. For people like raptors, and they say, you know, raptors are cool, and they are, but waterfowl is just so much better. That's why we're on the lake looking for waterfowl, right?
Right. I'm Chuck Slusarczyk Jr. I've been a lifelong birder, former seasonal naturalist at the Cleveland Metroparks. Yeah, birds, lakefront. That's my thing. I live nearby. I've been birding on the lake since I was in my teens, probably. Yeah, certainly. And I like the gulls as well. Tim and I are kind of gull heads in that regard. And waterfowl also. At one time I wanted to be a waterfowl biologist, but that never came through. So I just always did this on the side. I lead bird walks. I do photography. And,
amazing photography.
Thank you. And I love the lake. There's so much diversity and so much to see at all times that it's every day is a different day, a different story.
It is, and Cleveland has amazing birding opportunities and things just for anybody, even if you're not a birder. It just, Cleveland Metroparks took over many of the parks that were here that weren't, maybe they were city parks or whatever, and they took them over, cleaned them up, and just made them amazing. And it just, there's so many spots along the Cleveland lakefront that are just great for birding and birders, fishermen, all that stuff. So that's why I love Cleveland, because it's just right here in our backyard. We have the best lake for these birds, you know. It's just incredible.
One thing about Lake Erie, you know, being the shallowest of the Great Lakes, it has a huge fish population. You know, it's a very big, what do you say, wintering ground for the red-breasted mergansers. It's a kind of a diving duck. We've got more of those here on the lake in the fall than almost any place in the world. And depending on the weather and where the fish populations are, you'll see more and more. You can see huge flocks. They almost remind you of what it must have been when passenger pigeons were around. Thousands
and thousands, 10,000. We had a birding trip in December, and I think our count was over 10,000 red-breasted mergansers. That's incredible. And they come here to Cleveland, you know, to our Lake Erie, because we have the best fishing for the fish they're going after, little shiners and gizzard shad, threadfin shiners, things like that, and that's what they're mainly feeding on. And it's just so incredible to watch them. They'll be feeding in one area, then they'll skip across the water and go to another area, and then they'll come back, and they just know where the fish are. It's incredible. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it's neat to see how somehow they know where the fish are schooling. They'll move from one location to the next, and when you see a flock like that and they're actively feeding, often you'll see lots of gulls hovering right above them. The gulls love to steal their fish. Mergansers will come up with the fish. There's a gull right on top of them, getting ready to just take his food away, and it happens a lot. Right now we do have some red-breasted mergansers right behind us and nearby, and it's spring, so it's getting to be spring, so the males are doing a lot of courtship behaviors. They do this little dance.
It's so cool.
They bend over, they open their bill, they tilt their heads, they fluff their crests, and run across the water and try to impress the females who are just sort of looking at them like they're nuts.
There's one flying right there.
Yeah, there goes one.
They're so much fun. Waterbirds are the coolest. I mean, like I said, you know, bald eagles are amazing and peregrines are amazing, and but just the waterfowl are just
cool.
Yeah, they are. Man. They're so awesome.
Nature.
You ready, buddy?
Hey, little buddy.
A favorite thing about Cedar Point when I was a kid, honestly, was all the gulls in the parking lot. That's why I wanted to go to Cedar Point. I didn't want to ride the rides or doing like that. I wanted to watch the gulls, and you know, it was a herring gull colony near there, so there was tons of, you know, herring gulls, and that was my favorite part about the park was the gulls. I remember that. I've been birding since like Chuck said, since I was little. I can remember just loving birds. I got a little bird book that I got for Christmas or something, and I had little pencil marks and all the species I had, the bird feeder and stuff, and I was probably 6 or 7 maybe, and I just never gave up on it, and I just always loved birds, and I always had caged birds when I was a kid.
My grandmother had a parakeet.
You're right.
Whose grandmother didn't have a parakeet.
That's true. Yeah.
And that was one of the first birds that, I fell in love with that. And then I remember we saw a red-winged blackbird one time in the yard, and that was just like, oh, what is that? I didn't know what it was at the time, but,
Right.
Over time I learned what it was, and it still holds a special place.
Absolutely, yeah. It's just, there's so many cool things. Like I said, I can't even describe how many awesome things we have right here in Ohio. And we're right in a flyway, and where the birds are migrating north and south, and we have just the best birding spots in the northwest part of the state. Near Ottawa County and the McGee Marsh area is just jam-packed with birders in the spring, and just other people too. But people come from all over the world to visit that little spot right there where those birds are stopping, and they're fueling up before they cross over Lake Erie to their breeding grounds in Canada. And it's incredible to see all those people up there. Chuck and I lead bird hikes up there in the spring, so that's really fun with Black Swan Bird Observatory. It's just an incredible place. Ohio is just awesome. Like, if you don't like Ohio, then you don't like birds, or you don't like nature, or anything like that, because this is just incredible to live here.
It is. The diversity and the number of species you can see is just crazy, because we're almost at the intersection of two flyways. We've got the Atlantic flyway. Birds will pass through here heading to the east coast and south, and then you've got other birds that'll end up going down the Mississippi flyway. So sometimes you get a mixture of birds that are a little more common to our west of the United States, and other birds that are more common to the east of the United States. But we get a little intermingling of the two flyways here on the north coast.
And what's cool about us Cleveland birders and Ohio birders in general is we're really vigilant on paying attention to rarities like that. So that's why Wendy Park is such a great spot here, because there's many of us will find a rare bird out here. Like a gentleman found a great cormorant last year. It was a first Ohio record, and he found it in the Cuyahoga River. It ended up living right out there for, what was it, a few weeks, a month?
A few weeks, yeah.
And that was the first record for Ohio, so you never know what you're going to see. That's why I always got to be out here.
In 2013, we had a brown pelican that spent the entire summer with us out here. It was discovered by Jen Brumfield back in June of 2013, and it spent most of its time right behind us on that break wall. When it would leave here, you'd see reports of brown pelican up in Leamington, Ontario. Or another time there would be a brown pelican over in Toledo, and he wouldn't be here. But then the next day he's back. So he flew all around the lake that summer. He had his own Twitter feed. He had his own Facebook page.
They made a beer
calendar
about it.
There was a
Wandering
beer.
Pelican.
Yeah, Great Lakes Brewing Company made a Wandering Pelican Ale. Yeah, it was delicious too.
I don't drink, so I wouldn't know, but I definitely like the Pelican out of it. That's cool. Another thing to mention that is, because of the birding communities here, many people would never have met without birds. Like, I would have never met Chuck, and I met him because of that pelican. I heard about it, so we came out here and ended up meeting Chuck and just seeing him out here all the time. Who's this dude out here with this amazing photography? So we just became friends. So we just bird out down here as much as we can. And it's because of social media, things like that, like Birding Ohio, or Ohio Rare Bird Alert, the listserv, things like that, where normally we wouldn't have that back in the day. We're lucky now we have that, because if a rare bird shows up, we can be there pretty quickly if we want to see it. Or back in the day, I don't even know how they did that. So
herring gulls.
Every time I think I see a common, it's just a red-breasted on its side.
Laying on its side, exactly.
There's a Ruddy Duck hanging out.
Oh, you found him?
Yeah, he's to the right of the pole.
Oh, there he is. So
some of the birds you'll see here in Cleveland this time of year are, red-breasted mergansers are stopping here again on the way up north. But it's starting to get less and less different birds that we look for in the winter, because they're all kind of moving up north now. You'll see a flock of greater white-fronted geese scoop over of us. Those are rare birds for Ohio, but they do come through. Snow geese, things like that. But the things we're going to see most often right now are herring gulls, ring-billed gulls, red-breasted merganser, Canada geese, double-crested cormorants. Those birds are very common here now. They're actually a southern bird, and they kind of migrated themselves north. They never really nested here or bred here originally. They were a southern bird, and we just have obviously the best fishing, like we mentioned before, so it's a great place for them to be. So they've actually come up here, and they're in a huge abundance now on the lakefront.
Very abundant on the lakefront. Cormorants, it's they're the only species we have here is the double-crested cormorant. Although I think Tim mentioned that we did have one rare East Coast bird last year, a great cormorant. So that would be unusual. That's not something you'd see all the time. Depending on the seasons, we get all kinds of gulls. Winter is the best time for gulling. And the worse the weather, the better it is for us. When the lake freezes, any pocket of open water will just be saturated with everything you can imagine. 2 winters ago, when I think 99% of the lake was frozen, we had open water here on the Cuyahoga River, and we managed 13 different gull species that winter, throughout that whole season. And diving ducks, we had white-winged scoters, black scoters, surf scoters,
long-tailed duck, harlequin duck,
Pomeranian Jaeger,
long-tailed Jaeger,
parasitic Jaeger. It was outstanding. It was crazy. You couldn't. The best birding in the whole state was right here in downtown Cleveland.
Yep, absolutely. And that's why I said Cleveland's so awesome for what we do out here. The birding is just incredible, and you never know what you're going to see. And like Chuck said, depending on the weather, the worst weather in the winter, the best it is for waterfowl and gulls and things like that. But then springtime is incredible. Wendy Park right here is a small little migrant trap that we could have. I mean, I don't know how many species at one time, 50, 70 species at one time or something. It's just incredible. That little tiny woodlot right there, the birds are migrating. Most songbirds migrate at nighttime, and so they rely on the stars and the moon for magnetic field of the earth, things like that, to migrate. And then they just get tired. They hit the lake, and they don't want to cross the lake because they're exhausted. So they stop in these little migrant traps. They're very important for these birds to refuel and gain their strength and get back to migration. And we need to keep those. We need to, Cleveland Metroparks has done a good job with keeping that natural there and keeping that an awesome spot for our birds to not even our birds, the Costa Rican birds, stay the winter in Costa Rica.
Our birds. They're
right. We have them for a short time, and they go up north and they go south. So, but those little spots like that are excellent for winter wrens, stopover, all the different warblers. We could have up to, I think, 36 species of warblers could come through Ohio at one time. And
Something
McGee
like
Marsh is one of the best places to be able to get that many species in one day. All the vireos, the tanagers, the hummingbirds, all kinds of cool stuff come through here.